Hi guys, it's me again, and yeah, we're doing Tanzania today. Yeah, here we go. Starting off with the history. Some of the first people to have lived in Tanzania lived as kind of like hunter-gatherers kind of thing, as agriculture arrived in Tanzania about 1000 BC, but the farmers still made wooden and stone tools. But by the 4th century AD, Bantu people began to migrate to Tanzania, and they brought more sophisticated tools and weapons made out of iron, while the people on the east coast of Africa had contacts with the Mediterranean, with peoples from the Mediterranean. The Persians and later Romans sailed as far as Tanzania. Later, by the 8th century, the Arab merchants sailed to the area. And the Arabs brought Islam, and ever since many Tasmanians have been Muslim. And many Arab settlers along the coast eventually traded with peoples far away as India. And in the 11th century AD, the ancestors of the Maasai began to migrate to Tanzania from southern Sudan, but most of them arrived between the 15th to 18th centuries. And the first Europeans to reach Tanzania were the Portuguese, most notably Vasco da Gama, who arrived in 1498. But however, the Portuguese did not extend their rule inland, and as the Portuguese were peaceful, but it wasn't to last, as in 1503 a ship commanded by Rui Lourenço came to Obuja Island. The Portuguese captured 20 dhows, or Arab ships, and killed 35 people. As a ruler of Zanzibar, the Mwinya Mkuu were forced to submit and had to grant the Portuguese access to Zanzibar, and as he had to agree to provide Portuguese ships with water and food, and he also had to pay tribute to Portugal. But in 1505 the Portuguese captured Mombasa, and in 1056 they captured Pemba Island. In 1015 the people of Oguja and Pemba Islands rebelled, but they were crushed by the Portuguese. And during the 16th century the Portuguese took control of the coast and built forts. In 1560 they founded Zanzibar town, and the Portuguese also introduced two plants from Brazil, cabaça and cashew nuts. However, the Portuguese only controlled the coast of Tanzania, as stated before. And in the 17th century they were driven out by the Arabs from Oman, as the Arabs captured Unguja in 1652, and the last of the Portuguese were expelled from Pemba in 1695. And the last stronghold, Fort Jesus, or Fort Jesus, in Mombasa was taken in 1698. The Arab victory ensured that Tanzania did not become a Portuguese colony like Mozambique. Instead, from the end of the 17th century, the Arabs were dominant power in the region. And in the 18th and 19th century, Arab slave traders took a massive amount of slaves from Tanzania and exported them from the country, as the slaves were sold to Arabs and other and to European colonies in the Indian Ocean. In 1812, a man named Salah bin Haramil introduced a cloves to Zanzibar, and soon cloves became a major export of the region, and the plantations were worked by African slaves. And in the 19th century, Europeans began to explore more inland of Tanzania, and by the 1840s, two Germans called Johann Ludwig Karl and Johannes Rebmann reached Mount Kilimanjaro, and by 1957, two Britons, Richard Burton and John Speck, reached Lake Tanganyika, and in the 1860s, missionaries then reached Tanzania. And in 1885, the Germans began taking over the region. The Germans were led by Karl Peters, and he established the German East Africa Company, known as Deutsche Ostafrikanische Gesellschaft, as Peters persuaded African chiefs to make treaties with his company. As legally, Peters acted independently from the German government, but the government approved his actions. I can't help but see similarities between the British East India Company kind of thing. If that's anything to go by, it's probably not going to go terribly well. No, it's like meanwhile the British had taken over control of the island of Zanzibar, and in 1890 Britain and Germany signed a treaty dividing the area between them, as Britain took Zanzibar and Germany took mainland Tanzania. And then in January 1981, the German government took direct control over Tanzania. However, from the start, Germans faced resistance from Tanzania, as the first uprising was the Abushiri Revolt of 1880, as the people of the coast on Tanzania, I have a feeling, is an island off the coast of, substantial island off the coast of Australia. As people of the coast of Tanzania resented German interference, and they rose in revolt, and they were led by a man named Abushiri bin Salim al-Harith. However, the Germans eventually crushed the revolt, like the British did in India, and from 1891 to 1898, the Germans fought a war with a people called the Hehe, and eventually the Hehe were defeated, and their leader, Rukwawa, spelled MKWAWA, basically killed himself. And from 1905 to 1907 came the Maji Rebellion, as Africans were forced to work on cotton plantations, and eventually southern Tanzania rose in rebellion, as the rebellion was crushed after the Germans adopted a scorched earth policy. And it's believed that 100,000 people died both as a result of the fighting and as a result of starvation. And between 1909 and 1913, a 250-ton mountain of dinosaur bones was discovered at Tendaguru, north of Lindi, as the bones were shipped to a museum in Berlin. And in 1914 came the First World War, and there was a small German force in Tanzania led by Colonel Paul von Lettel-Vorbeck, who was said to be an able man, like a very able man. And when a British force landed in Tanga in November 1914, it was defeated and fled, leaving many weapons to the German hands. The British invaded again in 1916, but were unable to defeat the Germans again. But by 1917, the Germans in Tanzania were running out of food and ammunition, and it turned into guerrilla warfare. And the fighting continued till November 1918, where Germany surrendered, and therefore signed the Treaty of Versailles. And after the war, Tanzania was handed over to the British, and it was called Tanganyika. And in 1925, Sir Donald Cameron became the first governor of Tanzania. In 1926, a legislative council met, and under British rule, Tanzania exported cash crops like cotton, as much of it was grown on European-owned plantations, but some of it was grown by Africans. And in the meantime, Africans began to organise themselves, and in 1929 they formed the African Association in Dar es Salaam, yet in Tanzania. The 1920s through to 40s were pretty much uneventful, but it began to change in the 50s. And as in 1953, Julius Nyerere was elected president under the Tanganyika African Association. And in 1954, the association was renamed to Tanzania African National Union, and it campaigned for independence with a slogan of freedom and unity, Uhuru na Umoja. As a national union, participated in elections for the Legislative Council in 58 and 59. However, 2/3 of the seats were reserved for non-Africans, and in 1960 the restriction was removed. An election TANU won almost all the seats, and the move to independence was now seen as unstoppable, as it became independent on the 9th of December 1961, with Nyerere as Prime Minister. On the 9th of December 1962, Tanzania became a republic, and Nyerere became president. However, in 1967, Nyerere adopted a policy of socialism, and he made the Arusha Declaration, in which he outlined the vision of socialist Tanzania. But as in many other countries, as we've seen in many other countries, so the socialism kind of proved to be a failure, as the cornerstone of the policy was called Ujamaa, or familyhood, as Nyerere planned to create huge collective farms, as the people were encouraged to move into large villages in which food and other goods would be produced collectively for the whole community. But it proved disastrous for Tanzania, as agricultural production slumped when the Tanzanian economy was wrecked. And by 1973, about 20% of the populations had to move to the Ujamaa villages. So Nyerere had forced people to move by 1997. 80% of the population had been resettled. While in 1975, Tanzania became a one-party state, and at the time, Uganda was ruled by Idi Amin, and we'll get to him in a bit more during Uganda. But in October 1987, he decided to invade the Kagera region of Tanzania, and in 1979 a Tanzanian force counterattacked and rapidly overran Uganda, and the Tanzanians finally withdrew in 1981. So yeah, don't invade other countries unless you know you can win outright, kind of thing. And in 1980, Nyerere was re-elected president. However, the economy wasn't as in kind of like in tatters, and corruption was endemic. And furthermore, Tanzania was going further and further into debt, and the international donors demanded reform in return for help, but Nyerere was unwilling to change his policies. However, but in 1985 he resigned. He was replaced by Ali Hassan Mwinyi, who spent the next 10 years trying to repair the economy of Tanzania. As Mwinyi privatised business and tried to purge corruption, he encouraged foreign investors, and it did result in the economy of Tanzania to grow steadily. And by 1992, Tanzania became a multi-party democracy, and in 1995 Benjamin Mkapa became president. In 2005, Jakaya Kikwete was elected president of Tanzania. But meanwhile, in 2001, school fees were abolished in Tanzania, and as a result, attendance in school was greatly increased. But Tanzania still relies on agriculture, and there are many plantations which grows coffee and tea, tobacco, cotton, and cashew nuts. As Tanzania also has a considerable mineral resource. It's still seen as a poor country, but a fast developer kind of thing. As along the coast of Tanzania, fishing is important, and the country has great potential for tourism. So yeah, it's like it has several national parks with animals like lions, leopards, crocodiles, giraffe, and hippos. Just got to be a little careful with them. Well, yeah, as of about now and today and all that, the population stands about 53 million. So yeah. Moving on to language. Tanzania is an East African country, as we all know, and Swahili is the nation's official language. However, English is widely spoken, and other languages spoken within the country as native tongues of various ethnic groups. As ethnic languages are mainly of Batu and Nilotic in origin, as these languages have various levels of growth, and 58 of the 126 are considered to be vigorous use, as 18 are developing, some are dying, and 3 languages have since become extinct. As most of Tanzania's population are fluent in their mother tongue and one other, mainly Kiswahili, as the general population has considerable knowledge of English, but their fluency in Swahili is a little more noticeable, as Swahili is the official and most commonly used language in Tanzania. As Swahili is a Bantu language that developed from interactions between Arab traders and Bantu communities in coastal regions of East Africa, and despite its widespread use in Tanzania, Swahili is spoken in neighbouring countries of East African communities. Swahili is a native speaker base of about 20 million people. So it's like there's a lot of people that can speak it. Swahili was first written in Arabic script during its earlier but later adopted the Latin system that we use here in Europe, in like Western Europe and all. And the Christian missionaries introduced the Latin system of writing during the Christian works, including books like the Bible. As the national language of Tanzania, Swahili brings a sense of identity and belonging to Tanzanians, as language is used in all spheres of life, including music, education, politics, legal affairs, technology, business, media and film. It's like whereas English was used during the Tanzania's colonial era under the British, as it has been used alongside Swahili since independence as a medium of instruction in schools. However, during the presidency of Jakaya Kikwete, an overhaul of education resulted in the abandonment of English as a teaching subject in schools. As Tanzania is an ethnically diverse region, there are more than 100 ethnic communities, as these communities fall into two broad classifications of either Bantu or Nilotes, and some Nilotic languages are spoken in Tanzania, including Maasai, which is shared among the Maasai group found in both Kenya and Tanzania. The Nilotic languages include languages like Dakota, Nagasa, Ogi, Kisankasa, and various Bantu languages spoken in the country include like Bemba, Safwa, Digo, Hehe, Makonde, Nyamwesi, Yao, and Luguru, along many others, kind of thing. As minority ethnic languages include those like the Afro-Asiatic family. They're like Arabic and all that. Bugge. And yes, but like there's like Indo-European languages like Hindustani, Portuguese, French, and Gujarati. Yes, like there's several sign languages within the country used by the 280,000 strong Tanzanian deaf community, and these are scattered but are more likely to be found in urban areas, as there are various forms. It has been used both in education and communication since 1963. While most schools for the deaf use sign language, others teach lip reading. A standardized Tanzanian sign language was suggested in 1984, but hasn't been introduced officially. Yes, anyway, as far as the 2017 article has been introduced, kind of thing. And so finishing off with one urban legend. There's a Popo Boa, which is a demonic creature that appears to be human during the day, but turns into into a one-eyed bat thing at night. As the attacks threat started being reported in the 60s on Tanzanian in island of Pemda, and involved vicious sexual assaults on men and women. Why sex assault, I don't know. I really shouldn't laugh, as it kind of makes it more terrifying. That is, the Popo Boa is said to be especially malicious who don't believe in it, kind of thing. So yeah, just a little odd kind of thing. they'd rather sexually assault rather than kill or something like that. I hear a lot of demons or just outright spook and all that. So yeah, be careful of a popo about that, and yeah, I'll see you very soon.